in Indonesia, of course. But it can be quite hot in the summer. August and July can become hot, but like maximum 35 degrees. So let us come to the questions, if there are any. See how many friends have turned up. Now still no one. Oh, 11. So we wait a little. Anyone who wants to start asking questions about, we are nearing the end of the treatise, and this end is describing the perfection of Samatha and Vipassana, which is in a way the most important perfection, and the mother of all the other perfections. So this description here that we have in our text, Ta Sheng Chi Shin Lun, is extremely brief. There is not a single Chinese character which is superfluous. He does not explain, he just quotes some facts for us so that we can get some understanding. And the last lesson we were talking about the shamatha practice. You still remember? This shamatha practice is the base of all practices, because when the mind is not dwelling in calmness, it is always subjected to fluctuations, and according to our fluctuations, our emotions, feelings, and thoughts are wild. I was explaining this morning for the participants here, according to the perfection of wisdom, whatever wisdom we may have with non-peaceful mind is called the crazy wisdom. We are, because the true mind, according to Buddhism, it's not only the Mahayana Buddhism, it's even in the Theravada Buddhism, in the Sarvastivada Buddhism, the true mind, the true chitta, is shining, is clear and appeased. So we have also learned the four most important principles of Mahayana, which we investigate in our philosophy, in our daily wisdom, in our understanding of practice, and also in it is a realization itself, as opposed to Theravada, the body and the way to body. We explain it in our scripture. It is 视觉. 视觉 means actually awakening of the beginning. The beginning is awakened, but what we have put into it makes it ignorance. So whatever we do with non-appeased mind is, even if we have a lot of wisdom, it is crazy wisdom, according to the sutras of perfection of wisdom. So the nowadays we have so much crazy wisdom that the world cannot carry it anymore. So the catastrophes are coming and coming and coming. So the first thing to do, and that we have learned in the last lesson, is to bring the mind to peace. This is the essence of meditation. And we have explained how to do it according to the non-dualistic approach. We have to do it in so that we don't allow in our mind for a long time any object to to stick to our mind. Hmm? We avoid this kind of thought with object sticking into the mind, and we understanding as obstacle. Hmm? That is why in Chinese, as we have explained, the shamatha is translated as zhe, which means stopping. Hmm? We are stopping all the the turmoil of the mind. Unless we stop the turmoil of the mind, uh, even if we have wisdom, it will be crazy wisdom. Hmm? And when we stop the turmoil of the mind, it is called the chitta viveka, huh? The Xing Li. Huh? Xing means mind, huh? Or base of mind, and Li means curly, huh? The isolation. We have to isolate the mind from the turbulence of the outer world to bring it to peace. Hmm? This is the first step, which is called the Kaya Viveka, the separating the senses, which is our body. Without the senses, we have no body. Hmm? To separate our senses from the attraction of the objects, from grasping the objects. This is called Kaya Viveka, Shinli. Shinli is the cause of Xingli, the isolation of the mind. When the mind is isolated, it becomes uh, shining. This is not any Mahayana idea. It comes from Anguttara Nikaya Zheng-yi, Ahanjing, and you will find it in some other passages. This mind which is shining is a mind which is isolated. Now we have learned in this Yogacara tradition, the mind which is still isolated from outer object is called what? It's called alaya. Another name for alaya is adana, because ada means to appropriate, to catch. And another word is chitta. Chitta because it chinoti, it chitam, it is accumulating, accumulating the seeds of our previous experiences. So this mind is still not connected to the outer world. It is a result of the previous minds to which we cling. So it is clear, and it is not subjected to defilements because it is still inside. That which gives the impression that the objects outside are worthy of catching is called manas, E in Chinese. We have shin, we have E, and we have sh. On the base of E, we understand the sh. Sh means vijnana. Shin means chitta. E means manas. Sh means vijnana. You may find similar words in the Indonesian language, which contains so much of Sanskrit. And we are working on the base of collaboration of these three kinds of mind. And because they are together, they are not separated. For us who are not yet, we have not yet direct realization of non-duality. So automatically we think that what we see is true, what we hear is true, and we cling to it because we associate it with the manas, with the organ of thinking, right? In our scripture, we have explained the manas has five aspects, right? The yesha, the juansha, the xiansha, zhesha, and the xiangshisha, the karmic consciousness, the evolving consciousness, the uh, display consciousness or revealing consciousness, the differentiating consciousness, and the continuity consciousness. These five consciousnesses in this concept, which is special to this book, they are called manas, E. And on the base of E, we have the six consciousnesses, which are called E. E means manas, Sh means differentiating. Differentiating on the base of manas, on the base of E. And when we differentiate on the base of manas, we are living under the delusion that this color is indeed the wonderful color we have to get. This shape is wonderful shape we have to get, and associated with some imaginary I. Even when we become an arahat, so we still have the marks in our mind of this kind of thinking, our habits. Our habits are habits of the dual mind, not the habits of the non-dual mind. And these habits of the uh, non-dual mind, they are very deep. The more we are approaching to the state of realization, then the more clear we will see how deep this habit of duality is in us. But this habit of duality is itself no problem. What is the great problem is uh, experiencing this habit of duality with ignorance. And not to experience this habit of duality with ignorance, we need shamatha. And the last lesson we have explained shamatha in this tradition of Zhulai Zhang, of the womb of Tathagata, the tradition of Buddha nature, tradition of the uh, the perfection of wisdom. Perfection of wisdom speaks of the Prakriti Nirvana. The Nirvana is a natural state. You don't find it in the early Buddhism. What is natural state is Nirvana. Because we don't know the natural state we have learned in this scripture, therefore we are roaming around, lost in this world. Because we don't know the natural. When I was learning Zen in Japan, the first thing the teacher told me is to be natural. And when I asked him what is the principle of Zen, he said, just be natural. Then I try to be natural. Then after some time, the teacher told me when the proper occasion was there, but you don't know what is natural. Well, in the perfection of wisdom, the natural is nirvana. Hmm? And how to attain nirvana, how to uh, make experience of nirvana. Huh? The experience of nirvana is explained also in the perfection of wisdom, the principle of wu so ju shen qi xin, to give rise to mind, hmm, without letting it to dwell anywhere. Right? You have understood when the Master Huineng heard behind the wall of the monastery the teacher explaining this principle, he suddenly his mind opened, says the Platform Sutra. We may have heard it many times, but our mind is not open. Bad luck. What bad luck? Because we have these habits of duality. These very powerful habits. Now, to reduce these habits of duality, then the scripture proposes shamatha, and the shamatha is not allow any object, be it breath, be it the elements, to dwell in our mind as something real, which is actually there. We make it there in order not to cling to it. We don't make it there in order to cling to it. So the meditation, as we have learned, is not to allow any object to stay in the mind, and if it stays, get rid of it, and finally also get rid of the very idea of any object at all. This is shamatha. When we practice it, it is explained what I have explained in this course here. The participants, many of them are sitting around. It's the 9 stages of shamatha called the chitta sthiti shinju. We train shinju, the steps of mind to samadhi, not just in meditation. We have to learn them in daily life. So for that we need Jen, the right mindfulness. And the right mindfulness here is precisely that. We don't let any real object dwell in mind. That is the right mindfulness. And this right mindfulness leads to the right samadhi, the samadhi of suchness, Genru San Mei, and the Genru San Mei Fangpian, the skillful means of the samadhi of suchness, is I Shin San Mei or I Xing San Mei, the samadhi of one samskara, the samadhi of one thought, because the one thought, one samskara arises from the empty mind and returns to empty mind. What arises from the empty mind and returns to empty mind cannot have any nature of its own. And whatever has no nature of its own in Buddhism cannot be the self. And whatever is not the self is empty of own nature. So for this reason, we are learning Mahayana, we are learning Tashen Fotiao. So the first principle is quite different from Theravada, is that that there is no fa there is no phenomena which has really arisen, pushed, when there is no phenomena which has not arisen, then there is pumie. When there is no birth, there cannot be real death or cessation. When there is no real arising, no real cessation. This non-arising and non-cessation is teaching, it's the peace, and the essence of this peace is nirvana, Zishin Wei Niepan. Now, Shin Zishin Wei Niepan, the nature of the true mind, in Zen, based on the teaching of Damo, based on Lanka King, based on Lanka Avatara Sutra. There is a Genshin, the true mind, and the Kyashin, and the illusionary mind. The true mind is always there. The illusionary mind always changing. And whatever is always changing is empty, because it cannot have any self-nature. Zixin, Zixiang does not exist in our experience. Zixin, Zixiang is nirvana. This is what we have learned about shamatha, and through shamatha we get intuition. It is a shamatha in this tradition, in the tradition of Zen, in the tradition of Tibetan Taiyuan, and so on, the Dzogchen, Mahamudra, Tantra, in Tantric tradition, just like in Zen, or in all important Chinese tradition, the self-nature of not only of the mind, but of all the phenomena is emptiness. This emptiness, which is a self-nature of the self and of the phenomena, is called suchness. And suchness can be only one. And in order to realize the true state of suchness, we have to practice shamatha in a way that has been described. Now, the author continues, Fu Zi Yi Shi San Mei Gu, due to this samadhi, Ci Zhi Fa Jie Yi Xiang, one can know, one can penetrate the one characteristic of the Dharma Dhatu, of the sphere of Dharma, of the sphere of the phenomena, of the sphere of the world. The sphere of the world has one characteristic. This characteristic in a non-dualistic tradition is called suchness. And the Buddha is one who comes in suchness, goes in suchness. So he is suchness. Suchness is a true Buddha. How do we experience the true Buddha? By this concept of shamatha, by the samadhi of suchness. And what is the skillful means for the samadhi of suchness? That pure land. Mahayana is a teaching of the pure land. That is the sambhoga kaya, the body of the bliss, which helps us to attain the suchness. Because in the Xifang Qile Shitie, in the thousand land of perfect bliss, all is Dharma. Hmm? Even the birds are chirping the Dharma. The trees are manifesting the Dharma. The water and the land is manifesting the Dharma. So this is the skillful means of Sambhogakaya. We will come to that in our scripture also. And then the Nirmanakaya, the Hua-shen or Yin-shen, is the body of Buddha that we normally see with these all these characteristics. And we study perfection of wisdom. Whoever sees Buddha in characteristics does not see the Buddha, says Kinkan King, the Diamond Cutter Sutra. Now, what is the conclusion he comes to? Wei yi qie zhu fo fa shen, yu zong shen shen bing tang. So that means because the universe becomes of one characteristic of emptiness in the samadhi of suchness, where we don't take any object in the mind as being real, then we can understand that we non-Buddhas and the Buddhas, we have the same mind. We are we are not separated. We are not two from the Buddha. This is a wonderful method how to bring deep faith into our practice. When we have deep faith, then we can overcome all the obstacles. This is in the most important principle. We are stuck in obstacles because our faith is weak. So it continues. So this samadhi of knowing that our mind and mind of the Buddha is not two is called Yixing Sanmei, the samadhi of one formation. They are not two, three in the conventional world. They are innumerable formations. But in the samadhi of suchness, there is only one formation. We have learned in the beginning of the scripture, the phenomena appear from emptiness. Phenomena appear from emptiness, but because of the karmic consciousness, this emptiness contains the impermanence and also that which is not subjected to impermanence. So this which is subjected to impermanence is an alaya. That which is not subjected to impermanence is called the Buddha nature or Rulai Zhang. Even so, it is in the impermanence, it is not subjected to impermanence. Because we are not familiar with that, so in the Mahayana tradition, we realize it by taking the bodhicitta vows and practicing according to bodhicitta vows, as our text explains, considering the Buddha and and us of not being two, being one. This is very important. This is the essence of the practice. So we have to know and realize. Je here means to know, but also means to realize. Tugta. First, we have to know avabodha, then we have to realize pratibodha. So here it means both. We should tanzhi genru san mei ken. We have to know, we have to realize that this suchness is the root of samadhi. There is no true samadhi without suchness. This is a very bold saying. You will never find in the teaching of the disciples. We have to know that the root of samadhi is suchness, not some object, but the suchness. Very important saying. Therefore, the sutras of perfection of wisdom explain that the samadhi of suchness is the root of all other samadhis, on breath, on elements, on anything that works. The samadhi of suchness is the root. Therefore, the text explains Zhu Ren Xiu Xin Qian Qian Neng Shen Wu Liang San Mei. Gedish, when someone ran, when someone practices with this motivation, with this understanding, with this practice, he can gradually, qian qian, he can give rise, neng shen, wu liang san mei, the immeasurable samadhis. Everything becomes samadhi. Why? Because the mind is appeased. When the mind is appeased, it cannot be in conflict with anything. It is its conflict with anything because it is not appeased. This is a very bold saying, but this saying is based on the understanding and penetration of the truth that the the dharma dhatu, the sphere of phenomena, has only one characteristic, one essence. In this tradition, qi and xiang is the same. The essence and characteristics is one reality, not two realities. And this essence and characteristics is only one, being emptiness. Emptiness in the non-dualistic understanding, different from emptiness in the teaching of the disciples. The emptiness in non-dualistic understanding is suchness. The objects are suchness, the subjects are suchness, everything is suchness. Now, practicing this samadhi, even the with the help of an object, how much more with the help of the suchness, which is samadhi of suchness, is we need more training than the samadhi of breath or samadhi of some kasinas, colors, and so on. We need a very thorough, long training to understand that the samadhi of suchness is the root of all samadhis. Not easy to understand. And precisely when we are close to understanding, then the obstacles will come. And according to the scripture, it says they are some beings, Huoyo Zhongshan, Wu Shan Ken Li, who don't have the power of the Kushala Mula, the power of the good roots. What is a good root? Non-greed, no hate, no ignorance. This is a good root. What is a bad root? The opposite, of course. So, because we don't have these good roots, like Huineng is supposed to have, he just hears uh, Wu Soju or Shen Qixin, and his mind opens. Our mind takes a long, 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 long time to open, but it will open for sure. Only we have to have proper motivation and proper practice. No doubt it will open. Impossible to doubt if we study and practice properly. And this treatise takes a lot of pain and lot of wisdom to lead us to proper understanding of practice, to proper motivation. The faith is a predecessor of all virtues. Therefore, here I have been teaching a little bit the other treatise I have, the sutra I have translated, Tieshen Meeting. It starts with explaining that the root of all good roots is what? Is the dwelling place of the Buddhas. Because the dwelling place of the Buddhas, nobody can dwell there except the Buddha himself, and the feelings of the Buddhas who dwell there, nobody can gauge. This is even what the Kema Sutta, the Theravada also have the same idea. We cannot gauge the sensations and perceptions of the Buddha because we are not dwelling in the dwelling of the Buddha. And this dwelling of the Buddha is suchness. Our dwelling, we have learned, is manas, E. But for the Buddha, when we become Buddha, the E becomes Pingtengzhi, the wisdom of sameness. We are same like the Buddhas, only we are not realized. So when we don't have the power of the wholesome roots of non-greed, non-hate, then what will happen? Then all maras and all the different ideas of non-Buddhist understanding based on some true self will confuse us. So that, let me see the Czech translation, how I translate it. Never mind, I translate directly from Chinese. It's okay. Should be here somewhere. Yes, I have found it. It is very important to understand that according to this text, only when we don't have the power of the wholesome, then these maras will appear and the uh, non-Buddhist ideas will appear to confuse us. Hmm? Uh, so, why do they appear? Because our samadhi is not strong enough. Hmm? If the samadhi is strong enough, they will not appear. Now the samadhi of suchness is not strong enough. So we are subjected to the power not of our wholesome roots, but of our bad habits. When we subjected to the power of our bad habits, so these evil spirits will appear. If we are in samadhi, like the Buddha or like the great practitioners, so these great, those these devils, these maras. What is mara? The five aggregates of clinging, the death, hmm? Then the the powers, even divine powers, which prevents us from penetrating the real nature of our experience, which is nirvana. So they will become very active, actually, when we have some understanding. But when we have some understanding, the old habits will uh, blow the trumpet and will disturb us. So these old habits are connected with the clinging, with the death, or with the divine existence which separates us from the nirvanic state. Actually, these devils, they are called the fallen angels. They can be very, very powerful because they have uh, very developed concentration. They can have supernatural powers. So the only thing that can really help us is this samadhi of suchness. So this when he sits in meditation, these maras and the spirits, they take the terrifying forms of the beautiful males and females. And when it happens, one should meditate on the principle of mind only, Weishe. What does it mean, Weishe? This objects that appear in our mind, especially when it is in a deep state of concentration and we have not yet a deep realization, then they are the products of our own mind. As soon as we understand they are products of our own mind, their power will become reduced. But when we take them as something being outside, their power will grow and grow and grow. So just by remembering that everything we experience is only and exclusively the production of our mind, then these terrifying shapes will not uh, alarm us, will not disturb us. So, in the state of samadhi, there are no uh, objects that disturb. The objects that disturb is only when our mind breaks the samadhi of suchness. Then we start taking the object as something real, and then the commentaries describe all kinds of. There are many wonderful names in Chinese, Mei Yu, and so on and so on and so on. They come, but if we are Buddhas, then they become the Hufa, the Dharma protectors. So the Buddha, even in the stories of the Jatakas and so on, addresses always these terrifying forms as friends. Actually, they are Shangzhi, they are the friends for good when we understand them. They are friends for evil when we don't understand them. So this is very important to understand the importance of Vaisha, of the Chitta Matrata, of the mind only, is precisely by understanding that everything arises in the mind. And to understand that everything arises in the mind, we have to practice samadhi, we have to practice shamatha. There is no other way. Because shamatha is shinli, the isolation of the mind. When the mind is isolated from the influence of the objects of the five senses, then the objects that arise only arise from the mind itself. They don't arise from anywhere except the mind itself. When we are not in samadhi, so they arise from the outside sources. When we are in samadhi, the outside sources have no power to grab our mind. When they have no power to grab our mind, and we contemplate the mind only, all these terrifying forms are mind only, so they become our friends as for Buddha. But as long as we can't do it, they don't become our friends. So why it's so important to meditate that everything is the product of the mind? Because when we know that everything is product of the mind, automatically these terrifying forms become an illusion. When we don't contemplate them as being the arising of the mind, they are not illusion. Now, as opposed to our, especially Western civilization, not so much in your part of the world. When one is haunted by these powers, then they take him for not a normal person. But in Sri Lanka, especially Burma, in India, it is very normal to be haunted by these evil powers, and people take it as it's part of the life. Uh, so they bring some priests, they bring some shamans, they bring some in China some Taoist Taoist to uh, frighten them away. In Sri Lanka, very wonderful ceremonies. I have witnessed some. The they wear masks, the shamans, and they dance around the possessed person. They threaten and so on and so on. And he make friend with them in the tantric tradition in Mitya, which is also part of Chinese Buddhism. One visualizes oneself as these frightening powers, so they also cease to be frightened because one knows they are the product of the mind. So one understands that these four foundations of mindfulness, the body, the sensations, the thoughts, and the dharmas, the phenomena, they all just product of the mind, nothing else. When they are product of the mind, then they cease to be frightening. And that is Janyen, the true mind. In Mahayana, we meditate the true mind is actually the Buddha, as we have learned here. That mind which is frightened is an illusionary mind. This is a very powerful method if we know how to use it. And if we know how to use it, so according to the teachers of Mahayana, Nagarjuna, and so on, the, the realization becomes much faster and easier. There are no objects outside. In Theravada, we learn, and I have learned in this way, it's also wonderful, but kind of limiting, that first there has to be an object outside in order for the mind and thought, in order for the mind to arise. And even if we have the mental consciousness, it is based on the five senses. So the objects that arise in the mental consciousness, they also object of the more or less of the deliberation of the vitarka based on the five senses. So when the mind is sun, santya, when the mind is dispersed, the one should always, therefore, gather the mind, shin, and never lose the samyak smriti, jenyen. Here the jenyen means to stay connected with this Fa Jie Yi Xiang, with the one common characteristic of all the phenomena, inner, outer, which is suchness. The Zhen Yan means Wei-Shin, the mind only. And the outer objects, they have no true existence. Everything is only mind, chitta matrata, Wei-Shin. The mind itself is without own signs, Zixiang, Wuxiang, Animita. The mind itself has not any sign, not any picture in itself, not any object in itself, and it cannot be grasped in any moment of cognition. The mind cannot be grasped in any moment of cognition. Why? Because the mind, like finger, cannot see, cannot point itself. The mind cannot uh, attain itself. It can only attain itself if we have samadhi. We attain it, but we attain it in the past moment. Unless we have samadhi, we even don't attain it in the past preceding moment. So when we understand that the thought or nien, nien means thought, but it also means memory. Very wonderful Chinese translation. We will have difficulty to translate it into English because it means thought and it means also memory. This thought cannot be attained in any moment, moment by moment, nien nien puju. Moment by moment, the mind has no dwelling. This understanding that moment by moment the mind has no dwelling, it's the leads to the samadhi of suchness. And the samadhi of suchness is the mother, as we have learned, of innumerable samadhis. Because when we have shamatha based on not grasping any particular object in the mind, then all objects become the objects of samadhi because they are completely illusionary. And the mind is also completely illusionary when we want to grasp it. We can only understand it by non-grasping. Nobody can understand mind by grasping. So this is the greatness of Buddhist psychology, which the Western psychology still is far away from understanding the depths of it. So we can only understand step by step. And the step is here, Nien Nien Puju, Nien Nien Shin Puju. In each and every moment of thinking, the mind has no place to dwell. Sometimes these, what we may call these maras, these disturbing elements, they appear in the shape of the gods, of the bodhisattvas, or the Tathagata with all this 32 or 8 the principal sign and 80 secondary signs of perfection of body. They can explain all kinds of uh, the dharanis, the jo, all kinds of mantras. They can even preach the six perfections, or they can preach that the true nirvana is one emptiness which has no characteristics. They can teach all kinds of likings and dislikings. They can teach all kinds of causes uh, and results. They can teach uh, the perfect emptiness, uh, separated from everything. Why even these great ideas which you will find in Mahayana become obstacle? Because very important to understand this. Because when our motivation is not right, so this meditation on suchness becomes actually, instead of liberating, becomes the greatest obstacle. When we believe in emptiness, says Nagarjuna, it is better to believe in self as great as a Mount Sumeru than to believe in the uh, in some existing emptiness. The emptiness is only the skillful means to attain non-grasping. And non-grasping we cannot attain, we can only understand. And the philosophy of suchness is the philosophy of non-grasping. Because to understand the suchness, we need this samadhi of suchness. We cannot understand suchness just by uh, pure uh, differentiation, because in suchness there is no differentiation, no true differentiation. But we need concepts to understand that which is beyond grasping. Without these concepts, we will not believe in it. But all these concepts are precisely the concepts which are constructed in the mind to deprive us of grasping, which is in Buddhism the source of the suffering. Because we grasp, we suffer. So when we grasp, it means we have not understood suchness. We have, in the words of the sutras of the great perfection, when we grasp, we have no fampian, we have no skillful means to understand suchness. Very wonderful saying. So, what is suchness? What is suchness? In the sutras of the great perfection, suchness is isolation of the mind. When we isolate the mind from the influence of the outside world, it can lead us to suchness. How does it lead us to suchness? When we understand the objects come from the mind, and whatever comes from the mind is a construction, and whatever is construction has no real own characteristics or own substance apart from the suchness of the mind or emptiness of the mind, which gives it actually rise in this tradition. Now, these forms, however wonderful they may be, unless we have right motivation, we will not penetrate it. They will give rise to all kinds of contradictory feelings. The insectness, as we have learned, because it has only one characteristic, there are no contradictory feelings. But if we don't have the right motivation, these contradictory feelings will arise due to the past habits. Hmm? Our past habits, they are always connected with the I understanding, dualistic understanding, and with grasping to subject, grasping to objects. So this, unless we have right motivation, even if these shapes appearing in samadhi of emptiness, even those shapes explaining dharma to us, they are also maras when we grasp at them. So uh, they these shapes appearing in the mind, they are never stable unless we have the right motivation. So they always give rise to different emotions, either to happiness or to depression, either to the uh, to pleasure or displeasure, or to anger. Sometimes they are lethargic. Sometimes they are very friendly. Sometimes they are sick. Sometimes they are teaching us all kinds of things to make effort. And then again, they are forgetful and we become lazy again. Very wonderful teachings. So that which is true is connected with prashrabdi, an, and with sha, sing sha. When we are in samadhi, naturally, no need to search for it. Naturally, we have this pliancy. We have the we have relaxation, we have clarity, and we don't have tendency to grasp, and we don't have tendency to reject. So this understanding of suchness, of the Buddha nature, is very, very useful in daily life also. Why we should not grasp even too much at our family, why we should not be angry too much, because all we have learned, all the beings, their true nature is a Buddha nature. How can we be, when we believe in Buddha, how can we be angry at the Buddha? Very wonderful method to get clarity according to the teachings of Nagarjuna, Asanga, and so on, to get clarity in a faster way. So these maras, they give rise to all kinds of conflicting emotions. Sometimes we have faith, sometimes we have, again, after faith, we have doubts, and after doubts, we are have all kinds of worries and depressions. So sometimes they cause us to abandon our practice, and to get involved in all kinds of activities to make all kinds of personal benefit and to get involved in all kinds of worldly bondage. Or again, they uh, encourage us to do practice so that we attain something, uh, some not true samadhi, but some kind of pleasure for ourselves to become different from others. And they cause us to understand the non-Buddhist samadhi. The Buddhist samadhi here, it is a little bit prejudice, is the samadhi connected with the ego, with the enjoyment of the self. And this cannot be the Sachana samadhi. Then even it goes so far that they can cause us to remain in samadhi for a long, long time and to be even like the great yogis, to be, we don't need any nutrition. We are fed by the gods. We are fed by the prana, by incredible uh, food of the Gandharvas, which is so wonderful and so fragrant. Why? Very important to understand. To let us understand when we have some knowledge of samadhi, of suchness, that desire is actually Mara. He takes all kinds of different forms to seduce us from the true samadhi, which is here the samadhi of suchness. So these desires, they give us all kinds of conflicting emotions and conflicting behavior. We eat either too little, fasting, or we eat too much, or we uh, become very, very beautiful. Then again, we become very, very ugly. Just to let us understand when we have samadhi of suchness that the desire itself is actually Mara. And to get rid of this Mara, we have to understand in this tradition the Chittamatrata Vaishya. It is the only way. These desires appear in regard to the objects which our mind itself has constructed. And in order to understand it, we have to practice samadhi. So let us finish here today, and we continue next week as usual. And all the best for a wonderful weekend. And see you next week. And let us transfer merit for the benefit of all sentient beings. Here you have a new friend I can introduce. Bye bye. So, OK，愿以此功德，普济一切，我等一众生，皆空成佛道。May the merits of this Dharma spread to all beings so that we attain the state of perfect realization. And here, the state of perfect realization means the Chittamatrata Weishin, the understanding that everything we experience is just product of the mind. And when we know it is just a product of the mind, we don't stick to it so much because it is compounded and it is bound to be dissolved with the next thought. Okay, So that much for today. Hmm?
Thank you,
And see you.
Pastor.
Thank you, Pastor.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Bante.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you,
Bye.
Bante.
Bye bye. Hi, Patrick.